Trump's embrace of Putin should push the UK back towards the European Union. We're going to read into this argument piece from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline that Trump's embrace of Putin should push back the United Kingdom towards the European Union. The argument piece also says that the UK must accept its economic and political interests now lean heavily towards Europe, argues Richard Barfield. Guys, when you're here, make sure you hit that like button and share across social media so others can notify this video. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this huge summit that they had. I'm probably going to cover this on the live stream anyway, but I wanted to do a video on this in particular anyway because I do think it's important. When you see just in this picture here, some of the figures that are there, you know, Ursula von der Leyen, Zelensky, you got Zelensky and Keir Starmer there, Donald Tusk there, Justin Trudeau. I know the Canadian PM is on his way out. I'm fully aware of that, but one of the biggest absences, of course, is America. Now, we know that America is looking to align itself close. Well, the Trump administration, let me be clear about this. This is the Trump administration, not America itself. The Trump administration wants to align itself closer to Russia and Putin. That is ultimately what the direction that they want to go towards. And Zelensky and Ukraine have definitely felt the sense of being abandoned, especially after what happened on Friday. And if you want to hear my reactions and see some of that, you can see the live stream I did on Friday from America on America from that point of view there, because it really was a message of saying we want to stop it. We don't want a part of Ukraine. Like they want to take advantage of Zelensky and Ukraine, and it was pretty demeaning in every sense of the word. Now I do believe that it is going to be difficult, but I think that Keir Starmer will still, at the time of this recording, I think he will still try. He will not have. He's still going to try not to choose. He's going to still try not to choose. He's still going to try to talk about their unrelenting support for Ukraine and stick by Ukraine and whatever. But at the same time, he's not going to bash and attack the United States for what they've done. I'm in the agreement that the state visit should be cancelled. And whether it will or not is obviously another matter. But I still think this is the position that he's going to take. And while I completely agree with everyone that it would be nice for Keir Starmer to get on the phone and tell Trump to go F himself and all that, it's not really in the best interest is in the best interest of the UK. From a moral point of view, it makes total sense, but it would actually make us worse off because we are very interconnected to the United States, guys. We are very deeply connected to the United States. And we have lots of shared values with the US. And it's not just a case that you can just unplug all these things straight away. You know, there's a lot of interconnectional things that we are entwined with the United States. We are. You know, the term special relationship is definitely questionable. But there are strong links, strong things that ties the two nations together. And if the UK wanted to detach itself from America completely, it would have to intertwine all those links, and that's going to take a long time to do so. And I think it would be extremely difficult for America and the UK to both do that as well. So that's why I think that Keir Starmer won't take this position of just basically, yes, screw America, we're just going to stick by to Europe. I don't see it like that. It has come to this point where the Europe now needs to be able to defend itself, needs to be able to protect itself. I'm glad that European nations are spending more on defense and understanding that, hey, we need to do something to protect ourselves from Russia's aggression now. It's gotten to that point. This is where we need to go. This is the direction we have to. We can't keep relying on America. But the warning signs have been there for a long time. You know, the first Trump administration was a warning sign. It's not just the second Trump, this current administration under Trump now. It's the possibility of J.D. Vance. And we saw how the vice president reacted in that office with Zelensky. And that should ring massive alarm bells, because we thought that Trump was bad. JD Vance could be a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse as president, given his attitude. And he could be somebody that could really make things a lot worse. And and the possibility of back-to-back Republican administrations over 8 years really would, you would never see America go down, be what it was under Joe Biden, the last so-called Democratic president, if you want to call it like that. That's basically where that's pretty much what it was. Do not be surprised in any way about that. But the situation now has changed, obviously. Now from Friday, like, people will still behind the scenes try to mend things, but I just don't see it happening. But the UK should and continue to push towards the EU, but at the same time not make it so clear that they're doing so as well. But let's read what Richard Barfield has had to say on this, you guys. So, the UK's defence spending is going up, and the best way to pay for it would be to grow the economy rather than cut other public expenditures or borrow or raise taxes for individuals and business. I've said this before, by the way. It's absolutely bloody stupid that we are cutting foreign aid for military. And they've announced, they made announcements over the weekend and last week of more money going towards Ukraine, at the same time telling people that they couldn't remove the two-child benefit cap, that they had to change the way the winter fuel payments were made because they had to fill a £22 billion black hole. So I've said this before and I've said this again. When a government tells you that they do not have money for something, they are lying. And this government, like the last one, they are lying to you when they say they can't afford to do something. They can't even afford to feed they can't even afford to guarantee right here, right now, make sure every single child in the UK is given breakfast, lunch and dinner. They can't even afford to do that. The most poorest in society, the poorest kids in society, they can't even afford to do that. But yet they find money behind the back of a couch for a missile deal. To achieve the level of growth required, there is only one option economically, a major reset of the UK's trading relationship with Europe. The Trump administration's declaration on Ukraine, tariff and NATO has focused European minds. Keir Starmer has decisively reaffirmed UK's support to Ukraine and committed to raising defence spending from 2.3% to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, implying an increase of about £6 billion. In simple terms, the 0.2% GDP increase in defence needs an extra 0.5% of GDP to fund it. Aggregate UK tax revenue are about 40% of GDP. Extra GDP would enable the government to avoid unpopular cuts to public services and maintain the international aid budget, which Starmer has previously acknowledged supports the UK's security. A new trading relationship would boost both the UK and the EU economies. This matters because EU economic performance is already a critical issue. Even without Trump's tariffs, the UK economic model is blurred with a growth in France, Germany and Italy, just as weak or weaker than that in the UK. On top of that, the UK is now facing the challenge of significantly increasing its defence spending from a low proportion of GDP than the UK. In 2024, the comprehensive Dragoni report on the future of EU competitiveness proposes a suite of actions to improve economic performance. These include reducing internal trade barriers, which may come as a surprise to those who assume that trade in the UK is frictionless. Yeah, because Brexit gave us red tape. The reality is that although the EU has very successfully lowered trade barriers for inter-EU trade, they are still relatively high compared to the barriers of inter-US trade. In January, the European Commission responded with this competitiveness compass, a roadmap for change whose aims to include reducing trade barriers by simplifying EU regulation and strengthening coordination between member states. The pressing need for European defence collaboration has already pushed the EU and the UK much closer politically. The UK's relatively strong defence capabilities now give it a unique opportunity to seek reduced UK-EU trade barriers to facilitate cross-border procurement and free up supply chains. For example, the customs union between the UK and the EU would cut through customs red tape. It would take time to implement, but would be very valuable increase UK GDP by at least 1%, but it would also have consequences. In the customs union, the UK would have to levy the same tariffs on US imports as the rest of the EU. But these should be a small cost compared to the benefit of freer UK-EU goods trade. The US is an important UK trade partner. 15% of UK goods worth $60 billion in 2023, but a much smaller partner than the EU, 49% of goods exported. So yeah, that tells you a lot about our trade. So even with Brexit, we still have up to 49% with the EU. Note that tariffs do not apply to service trade, and the UK exported £126 billion of service to the US. The UK would also have to renegotiate the trade agreements that were not rollovers of the previous EU agreements. Australia, New Zealand, and memberships of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP. Again, the economic cost would be small. The government has estimated that the long-term value of each of these is at less than 1%, principally because these involve small economics that are way long away, and we have already agreements with 9 of the 11 so-called members. Similarly, the previous government estimated that the value of the trade deal with the US at just under 0.2% of GDP after 15 years. However, Trump's willingness to reignite on trade deals makes the potential benefit very uncertain. Aside from a customs union, for which, for political reasons, need to be deferred, there could be other mutual economic gains. A recent report from Frontier Economics found that deep regulatory alignment, even while staying with Labour's red lines, could increase UK GDP by 2.2%, about $60 billion a year that could fund defence spending of $24 billion. It will also deliver significant economic benefits to the EU. The estimated first-year increase in EU exports would be US $30 billion. Frontier have told me that they estimate that the long-term benefit to the EU economy would be in the range of 0.2% to 0.3% of EU GDP in round figures. That's up to 40 to 60 billion US dollars. So the UK's national economic interests lie with Europe rather than the US, but it also depends on maintaining a good relationship with the US, which Starmer seems to be doing well. To head off domestic political opposition closer to EU relationship, Labour should rightly argue that a government's first responsibility is to protect its citizens and strengthen defence. Its patriotic duty eclipses concerns following certain EU rules on accepting the European Court of Justice as a final arbitrator. As the EU ramps up defence manufacturing and reduces internal trade barriers, this moment in history presents the UK with a unique chance to redefine its priorities, relax its red lines, and push for a partial step change in its EU trading relationship. Now, Richard's not going as far as saying, he's not mentioning Brexit or mentioning rejoining the European Union there. That's not what he's saying. But I know angry Brexiteers don't want us to go back. And I do think, we are a long way from that anyway, because we know there are people that we have political parties that do not serve our interests for wanting to rejoin the European Union. But that is something that the majority of the British public do regret that vote back in 2016. But we have to remember that next year's is a review. It is a review that discussion that we'll be having with the EU with regards to the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TCA, that we had when that Boris Johnson signed. It's really important to understand that it's a review. It's not a renegotiation that people can say. Unless the EU wants it to be a renegotiation, and that's up to the EU whether they want to do so. I don't think that while it may benefit the UK, for the EU, they have so many other priorities right now to deal with, and I don't think that is one of them. For them, it's very important that they protect themselves more than anything. I just, for me, we are European. We are Europe. We just because we're not in the European Union doesn't mean we're not Europe. We are part of this continent. Nothing will ever change that. That is the reality. The Prime Minister shouldn't have to be forced to choose. And I think he's right not to do so. And I think actually, in a way, not because we are not part of the European Union, because we're on the outside, Keir Starmer can play that hand a little bit as well with the US. And I think that, in a way, helps him. Although it doesn't help us economically, us being outside the European Union. But I do hope that barriers can be reduced over the next couple of years to help achieve so-called growth. But just because you achieve growth doesn't guarantee jobs for everyone as well. But there is a lot to unpack there. I think a lot of that, I do agree with Richard on quite a few things there, but not everything, obviously. But yes, we do need to rearm Europe, and I think we're all in agreement with that. But what do you guys think about this argument piece from Richard? What do you guys make of Keir Starmer's position now? Should he still be kind of sitting in the middle between... I'm generally curious, do you guys think that Keir Starmer should still be sitting in the middle? Should he still be forced to pick one side or another? I don't think he should. And I think the fact that we had Brexit as well gives him the spot to be in as well. I mean, whether we get tariffs or not, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts and more on all this down in the comments section below. Now, if you found this video informative or helpful in any way to you, please hit that like button, be greatly appreciated, and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it really does help support the channel. If you hit that join button down below, you can join the YouTube membership to financially support me in the work that I do for as little as 99B. If you check out as well the Rumble and Patreon content for exclusive stuff on those platforms as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.